Hey everyone, thought I'd show you all my animals. You'll have to excuse if the camera picture isn't very steady. My hands can be kind of shaky. So this is my 10-gallon Planet tank that's next to my work area. It's mostly Endlers. There's a couple of small baby plecos in there, and just put a honey gourami in the other day. You probably won't see him because he's still getting used to the place. Yeah, it's just 2 filters for better circulation and running high light and CO2, so that's needed. Got that dwarf hairgrass in there that's been in for a few weeks and it's starting to take off, and there's some nice shoots there. In the back, that's an octopus plant, and these are some kind of crypts, and that's just generic moss on the bonsai tree there. Alright, so this is my saltwater hospital tank for 2 guys right now. Let's see if we can't find him. Yeah, there's my scooter blenny in the log there. He's had an internal parasite, so he's pretty thin. He's been dewormed now, so it should be gone, and he's going to be in there for probably another month or 2 till he fattens up. I mean, you can see some of his, like his spine and his ribs right now, so he's really thin. He's got a lot more energy back, and he's been eating more, so he should be okay. And this is Big Bird. He's very special needs. He's getting over the same internal parasite infection too, plus about half a year ago or so he broke his spine, and fortunately he lived, but can't really see in the video, but he has trouble swimming. Just his front half can move around, but he does alright. But when he comes out of here, I'm going to put him into a different tank from the one he was in. I'm going to put him in one that has less flow, so he'll swim better. And we're going to go to my fish room. This is my 1.5-year-old 90-gallon Planet tank. It's Amazon swords, a wide variety of crypts, and just a little bit of Anubias over there. I like kind of the simple plant thing. I don't like to mix a lot of them just because I don't have quite the artistic eye to make a mishmash look good. I do think the layout's pretty nice though. The swords are going real well, the crypts are going real well. I have to trim this about once a month or so. See if we can't get a little more close for better look at the fish. It's all kinds of tetras. I've got black neons, blue neons, harlequin rasboras, glow light tetras, rummy nose tetras, all sorts of corridoras. I've got a Bolivian ram right there. He's pretty shy, so he's going to be swimming off into the plants right. Oh no, he's staying out a little bit. So I've got Palliatus, or peppercorys, whatever you want to call them. I've got albinos. There's a lot more back there we just won't be able to see on camera, but I've also got Loxanus, Julii, some bronze, some greens. I have definitely quite a few pandas. I love those. It's probably my favorite chorus. And for filtration, I just run a Fluval FX4. It works great. It's just kind of a bit of a chore to clean it out once a month. There's no CO2 in this tank because I don't really have any plants that need it, and frankly I think it would grow too fast if I did. I'm running a couple of Beamworks lights on it. Not so much for intensity as so much like spread front to back. It still only works out to about medium light. Like the bottom is getting about 50 par. I do have a par measuring tool, which is really useful. So let's go over to my betta tank. Let's see if we... Yeah, Mr. Fish, he's right there. I don't know how well he show up on camera, but he's hiding out on top of his leaf behind that sticker. He used to live in the 90-gallon until somebody took a big chomp out of his head. I thought he was going to pass away, but I was able to get him into a hospital tank, and he healed up and rehabbed in just a few weeks. So now he's got his own 10-gallon tank. It's quite a bit smaller, but he doesn't mind, and it's mostly, mostly just him. Well, he's in there. Got some cherry shrimp. They're mostly okay with Mr. Fish. He might eat one here or there, but he generally doesn't pursue them. So they do reproduce enough to keep the numbers up. Got some Amano shrimp. Shy little panda corridori in the back there. And there's Mrs. Pleco. She's just a standard bristle nose. No bristles though, so I know she's female. As for plants, it's Java ferns, dwarf Sagittaria, and S Repens. I think it's Subulata is the S stands for. I'm not sure. Pretty low light, no CO2, just fertilizer once a week, and a simple low flow filter. This tank's really, really easy and pretty problem free, which is nice. Plants do grow slow, but that's okay. I don't need another tank that needs constant trimming, you know? Alright, so let's move on to the saltwater stuff. I'm gonna have to put a filter on. Okay. Yeah, so saltwater lights can be pretty blue, so I'm putting an orange filter on so you might actually be able to see things. So this is my, it's about 2-year-old tank. It's 20 gallons. It was originally my quarantine/hospital layout for new fish. I do put all my saltwater fish through a 2-month prophylactic quarantine routine because the saltwater fish supply chain is just horribly disease polluted, unfortunately. Eventually, they'll just turn into quarantine for inverts, you know, crabs, snails, shrimp, that kind of thing, and then just without even thinking about it, next thing I know, I'm putting anemones and leather corals and stuff in there. So then I just figured, you know, why not put fish in and just make this a tank? It's a very simple saltwater tank. That hang-on back filter isn't for any biofiltration or anything. I just have a filter cartridge in there for mechanical filtration. Just a couple of power heads for circulation. Auto top of course. There's no protein skimmer or fuge or anything. Just a once a week 5-gallon water change, and stays very nice and stable, and the anemones are happy. The bubble tips, they're kind of dicks though. They like to sit down wherever the rock flowers are. So the rock flowers, you know, sometimes they're good and happy, sometimes they're not. Depends if an anemone's bothering them. It's a really nice bright green leather coral there. Hellfreaky firefish, a couple of snowstorm clowns. Let's see, yeah, there's the bonded Bangai cardinals. So yeah, that's about it for this tank. Oh, and these pulsing xenia, I love those. A lot of reef keepers don't like them because they can spread a lot, but the whole point of this tank is just put stuff in here that I wouldn't put in other tanks, and you know, the anemones and toadstools and the leathers are aggressive enough that the xenia should have taken them over. Some nice Recordia mushrooms there too. This is my very first saltwater tank ever here. This is a 32-gallon BioCube. I mean, they call it 32 gallons, but realistically, I think it's less than that. It's a good first-time tank. I'm not super big on it being kind of a cube shape because it's a little bit odd for scaping, but I do love this tank. It's about almost 3 years old now. So that bigger clownfish there, he's one of the very first 2 fish I ever bought. He did unfortunately lose his original mate about 2 years ago. There's this new mate. They're named Statler and Waldorf. Statler's the smaller one. Female Statler and Waldorf, they're from the Muppet Show, the 2 grumpy old men. So there's my little high-fin red-banded goby. His name's Tweedle. There used to be Tweedledee and Tweedledum, but his mate passed too, unfortunately. Here's my leopard wrasse Kermit. She's not going to be in here forever because she'll get too big for the tank. She'll eventually go to my 90 that you're going to see in a second. But I do have some red flatworms in here that they don't really cause any problems for the corals or anything like that, but the population can get a little bit much. So she does a good job pecking them off here and there. Let's see if I can't see my purple firefish right there. Yep, there he is. His name's Gary. He's been with me for a while, so I think he's elderly. And let's see if I can't find my elderly shrimp. Yeah, there he is. That's Jerry, short for geriatric. He's almost 3 years old, which is pretty wild for a shrimp. And there's grumpy little Bosco, my yellow watchman goby. So this is my 90-gallon, slowly becoming a Acropora dominant tank. Everything is frags because over the last 9 months I did rescape this tank with all new rock. Most of the old rock was chopped up pretty fine and is down in the sump for the filtration and also to keep like all the microfauna and stuff like that, so I wasn't starting from scratch with the tank. This tank's been a little problematic over the years. I've had to take it fallow because I dealt with ick. and I've had some issues with coral growth here and there, but it's been stabilizing with time, and you know, hopefully in a year or two, a lot of these acros and other frags are going to be grown enough that this looks like a real reef. There's a lot of fish in here right now, so I'm not going to try to track them all down and name them, but you should get a good view of most of them. It is 11 fish, which to freshwater folks for 90 might not sound like a lot, but in saltwater, it's a good amount because the fish get bigger and they can be pretty territorial. I've got a lot of circulation pumps in here. A tremendous amount of light because, as I said, it's an acropori tank and they're very light demanding. I'm not going to show you the sump because that's just boring tech stuff. Well, this sump's open right now because I've been working on this tank, and you can see I'm floating some bags with corals in them to temp acclimate. So this is my, well, it's total volume 65 gallons, the 11-gallon sump, 54-gallon display. This is a Acropora and Montipora only tank. There's less light, well, not less lights, but more compact legs. This one's a smaller tank, but I've got the two Tupac AI hydras in there, some supplementary reef bright strips, and an AI prime in the middle. I do a staggered lighting setup on this, so most of the day the acros and monties are getting high light, and then when the supplementary lighting comes on, it gets even higher, and then when the middle light is on, the prime, it gets to kind of an extreme level for about 2 hours. I do feed this tank a ton, so I don't get any like light burn on the corals, but that mix, the heavy feeding and the light and the heavy fish load, as you can see, the corals are, well, mostly all growing pretty well. They're very colorful. I love this Montipora undata here, sent to me by Quinn from Boom Corals. It did have some hitchhiker zoas on it, just 1 or 2 polyps when I first got it a year ago, but they're going pretty wild. Every so often I have to cut some off to keep them from suffocating the Monty. You can see it's pretty small, but it started off as like maybe about a ½ inch frag. It's about 1.5 inches, a little more now a year later. So it should start taking off in another year or so. So I figure after about 2.5 to 3 years it should cover that whole disc. It's a pretty slow growing variety, which is okay because it's really beautiful. You don't see too much yellow with corals, so this is a nice yellow, some orange at the growth edges, and some green polyps. This is one of my pajama cardinals. And let's see, do we see another one? Yeah, there's another one of my firefish. He's an exquisite firefish. He looks a lot like a purple, but in person you can see some minor differences. Some Montiporas on the back, a whole bunch of corals on the frag racks. They're in this tank for a while the 90 stabilizes, and then they're going to go in there. There's a big ass snail right there, and this is my clam, Clamarin Diaz. Really nice green Montipora. One of my shrimp. I do like shrimp a lot. There's another one. There's my sand sifting goby right there. His name's Paul. One of the clownfish is there. I'd say about teenage clownfish. They do take a while to grow. Clowns aren't rapid growers. Alright, so let's move on to saying hi to the birds. So these are my cockatiels, Carter on the left. She was found by one of Christine's coworkers in a parking garage under a car. So I went and got her. We looked for her owners, and after a few months couldn't find anyone who claimed her, so she's been with us for just about 3 years now. You'll see she's a little plucked. You know, we assume she didn't come from a great environment, but we don't know any of her history. And this is her friend slash birdie sister, Colin. She's the only bird I ever actually purchased as a baby bird. I got her from a Petco. I hadn't planned on that, but she was getting bullied by the other cockatiels in her enclosure, and you know, it tugged at my heart, so I got her. They originally used to share a single cage, but they get into tiffs a little much, and we didn't want anyone getting hurt, so we got this really big split cage so they can see each other and hang out through the whole day, but not get at each other. We do always have them out together and have them supervised, so if they get into it, we can just take one of them home, but they're usually pretty good. They got a lot of toys and good food. Okay, so we're going to go to the bird room now. So all these birds are rescues. My Moluccan cockatoo Chablis. He's wearing that vest because he's a self-mutilator. It's a really common issue with cockatoos in captivity. And he does okay now, but it's one of those habits that when it starts, you really can't ever break it. Hi, sweetheart. Hi. And this is my other Moluccan cockatoo, this loudmouth. His name is Peaches. He's been with me for about 5.5 years. Chablis been with me for almost 9. Peaches came from a rescue in Pennsylvania. When they got him in, they didn't know his name or anything, so they called him Sasha. But then he started saying his name, which is Peaches. Super common name for Moluccans, but that's okay because he likes it. Very different personality from Chablis. He's very boisterous and can be very loud. This cage, lots of nice toys. Let's see. Here's Buddy, our Gotham's cockatoo. Been with us for about 9 years. He was a wild caught back in the 70s, so he's a pretty old man. He's definitely Christine's bird. I can't handle him. He'll beat me up pretty good. He is a sweetheart to me when he's in his cage, though. Here's an old shot of his setup. Here's my dear, crazy, heavy-plucking macaw, Zazu. He's the first bird I ever adopted, just about 9 years ago as well. We got him, Buddy, and Peaches all in the same year. So here's his cage. Lots of toys. His food's over there. The food dish is always empty because he eats so much. Hi, Zazu. Say hi to everybody. Being shy today? That's okay. This is our wild man macaw, Mr. Bird. He's a Catalina macaw. He's been with us for 7 or maybe 8 years. I can't quite remember. He's 12 or 13 years old, so he's pretty young. He's got a big cage. As you can see, there's not a lot in his cage. He does have a couple of big wood blocks on the bottom, a little on his cage door there, and his bell. That's actually on purpose. Birds do like a lot of toys, but he doesn't. He likes his cage pretty open, and he doesn't like anything up on the sides or the top. He'll just end up throwing it down to the bottom. He does like to play on the bottom and chew up all his toys down there, so we just go with what he wants. We've tried putting a lot of toys in here before, but he gets claustrophobic and he freaks out. So it's not traditional for a well-kept bird to have so few toys and so little stuff in your cage, but he told us that's what he likes, so we go with it. He can be very boisterous, and see there's a window out to the neighborhood, and when people walk by, he likes to yell at them and see if he can make them jump, which he usually does. And we're going to say hi again to Zazu before we say goodbye. Alright, everybody. Say goodbye to the people.